We're going to go ahead and get started. And I hate to interrupt this good conversation, and we're certainly glad to have Nathan and Hope with us this morning. As happens often, Ryan's lesson this morning kind of stole my thunder, and I wouldn't say that. It goes along with what I'm talking about today. And the topic is giving of yourself. This quarter we've been doing hospitality. And the subtitle here, let us do with our might what our hands find to do. And in starting this, I'd like to refer to a movie, I think it was back in probably the 60s, I guess. And the title of the movie is To Sir with Love. And there was a song that came out with this movie. Movie basically, Sidney Poitier is a teacher, and his students call him Sir. And so there's a rocky relationship there, but they come to love him. And the song that they sing it's called To Sir with Love. If you wanted the sky, I would write across the sky in letters 1,000 feet high, to Sir with Love. I would like to paraphrase that in reference to God. God, if you wanted the sky, I would write across the sky in letters 1,000 feet high, to God with love. And of course you say, well, that's foolish because God owns the sky. Well, isn't that the point? The point that Ryan was making this morning, the point that I'd like to make as we go through here, is that we give thee but thine own. There is nothing that we can give God. There's nothing that we can give God but ourselves. And that was Ryan's point today. Paul wrote to the church at Corinth, commending those in Macedonia. They gave themselves first to the Lord, and by the will of God to us. How can we give ourselves? What kind of gifts can we give God out of His bountiful gifts? I have 5 objectives today, and I've got my slides numbered, so you'll know when I'm getting near the end. I've got 30 slides, and I write them on there. So, first off, over and over, you hear in our prayers, and it's almost a rote thing, and when I pray, I try to think about what I'm saying, but sometimes it can be just kind of on autopilot, so to speak. You hear over and over, God be with us. God be with us as we go on this trip. God be with us in our class today. Be with me as I try to influence this person that I've just met. Now, how important is it that God is with us? What does that mean for our presence with others? Number 2, I want to talk about the word visit. And there's a passage here. Then shall the king say unto them on his right hand, Come, ye blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me meat. Gave me to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me to drink. I was a stranger, and you took me in. Naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came unto me. So the word visit is somewhat like the word hospitality, in that we want to flesh this out. We want to flesh out the meaning of the word visit. The next one, I want to remind us that mankind is our business. We have many things going on in our lives. Making money, keeping up our reputation with those around us, providing security, safety for our family. And some of us have small businesses and other things going on in our lives. But our true business is mankind. And number 4, I think we need to honestly examine ourselves as we consider, what can I give to God? The preacher wrote, "The wisdom of the prudent is to give thought to their ways, But the folly of fools is deception." There's nothing worse, no deception worse than when I deceive myself. There's no dishonesty worse than when I'm dishonest with myself. We need to practice asking ourselves some important questions, and we'll bring these up again. Why did I say that? Why did I do that? What do I honestly want? How would I like it if? Who do I need to reach out to? If we can be honest with ourselves, then we can certainly be honest with other people. And number 5, creatively decide what I can and should do in ministering to those who need attention. And God equips us for many opportunities and with many tools that we have at hand that we can do that. And so we pray, God be with us. God be with us through the night while we're asleep. And there's power in presence. The words of this song are very meaningful when we think about God's being with us. Be with me, Lord. I cannot live without thee. I dare not try to take one step alone. I cannot bear the loads of life unaided. I need thy strength to lean myself upon. There is something that is, I would say, magical or spiritual about presence. And C.S. Lewis says something that's very deep. You know, C.S. Lewis, he's deep. I'm not sure whether I understand all that he's talking about, but he calls it the numinous. And it's a sense that we as human beings have of a presence. And again, I'm sure there's a lot more to it than what I can understand or what I can express. But I do think that there is within us the ability to detect a presence. And I guess it could be a little bit eerie sometimes, but the point I'm making is that when someone is with us, a human being, then us, when we're with people, it's as if God is with people. Be with me, Lord, and then if dangers threaten, if storms or trials burst above my head, if lashing seas leap everywhere about me, they cannot harm or make my heart afraid. When God is present with us, there is a secure feeling, even if dangers threaten. And I'm thinking about the folks in St. Louis. What a terrible thing. But we know that the Christians there are dealing with this through the eyes of faith. Prayers are answered in some way. I don't know how God answers prayers, but I do know that He answers them, and I do know that He's active, and I have an idea that the Holy Spirit is moving in our world today. God has His mechanisms, He has His standard operating procedure, and He is moving among us. But when we talk about presence, are we talking about the presence of God? Or are we talking about a gift that we give to God, our presence? Be with me, Lord. No other gift or blessing thou couldst bestow could with this one compare. A constant sense of thy abiding presence, where'er I am, to feel that thou art near. And I'm thinking about the young people going off to college. Their parents, their grandparents, their family can't be a presence with them. But they can feel the presence of these people through love and care. And it's wonderful that we have be able to text and email and FaceTime and all of these things. So all those are wonderful. But we know that God is near because of the way His people visit those that we love. Be with me, Lord, when loneliness overtakes me, when I must weep amid the fires of pain, and when shall come the hour of my departure for worlds unknown. O Lord, be with me then. Do you know of someone who's tired of working puzzles together? By themselves? Watching TV with nobody to share their thoughts? Eating meals and there's no conversation? I think we all know someone like that. Sometimes I make a mistake, and again, we'll be talking about examining ourselves, and I examine my own thoughts, and I think, well, this would solve this person's problem. I don't know whether it would or not. So what can I do? Well, ask them the question. Well, how can I help you? And sometimes they'll give us a good answer. You and I have sat at the bedside of one who's waiting for the call of God to come home. And they seem to be unaware. But do they know that we're there with them? I think they do. As a matter of fact, I had an experience when I was a younger guy, and I went to, some of you know what the county hospital is, and they had, it's a nursing facility, and there they had the worst cases, and indigent cases. And there was a young man there, he was in his 20s, and he had gotten run over by a car when he was a child. And they had him hooked up to all kinds of machines and devices. And I was visiting there because I was helping with his Medicaid papers. And I asked one of his caregivers, I said, do you think he knows that he can hear us, that he knows that we're here? And they said, yes, I think so. So in that case, even if we have the idea that this person doesn't even know that I'm here, we need to remember that presence is so important. Jesus says, if you love me, you will keep my commandments, and I will ask the Father, and He will give you another helper to be with you forever, even the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive, because it neither sees Him nor knows Him. You know Him, for He dwells with you and will be in you. And so the presence of God in us, the presence of God in us urges us to give gifts to God. God is with us. Emmanuel. The world's Bible. Christ has no hands but our hands to do His work today. He has no feet but our feet to lead men in His way. He has no tongues but our tongues to tell men how He died. He has no help but our help to bring them to His side. And this is very touching, because when I give a cup of water to someone in need, Jesus says, when you did that, you did it to me. I'm giving water to Jesus when I give water to this little one here. And the Bible says that some, when they were hospitable, they entertained angels unawares. Well, think about this one. When you're blessing someone with your presence, you are in the place of Christ. There was a church in Germany, had a statue of Jesus. And during the bombing in World War II, this statue was damaged. And the people in the church there were trying to decide what to do about it. They couldn't find the hands of Jesus and the feet of Jesus. They wanted to set the statue back up. Should we make more hands and more feet? Should we rebuild it in that way? Well, they decided that they wouldn't do that. Someone came up with the figure, the metaphor, the simile, comparing we believers to the hands and feet of Christ. And so they put a plaque on the base of the statue that read, "I have no hands but yours." God is active in the world, but that doesn't mean that we don't have to work to do. Christ reached out to those who were sick, hungry, with his hands. He saved Peter from the waves with his hands. So should we. Christ reached out his hands to bear his cross. So should we. Today we are the hands and the feet of Christ. And Paul writes, now you are the body of Christ, and each one of you is a part of it. And so we have a rocking chair here. This reminds me of what I always thought of when we talked about visiting the sick. You make an appointment, you go and sit for 15 minutes and maybe have a prayer with the person who's struggling there, and you get up and leave. But the word visit means much more than that. I thought about this song, "Love divine, all loves excelling, joy of heaven to earth come down. Fix in us thy humble dwelling, all thy faithful mercies crown. Jesus, thou art all compassion, pure unbounded love thou art. Visit us with thy salvation, enter every trembling heart." And what a wonderful thing to think about Jesus visiting us. And of course, the word has more meaning than just like a doctor's visit. Thayer says to look after, to have care for, provide for, and of God. And again, Jesus says, I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me. And God visited us with salvation. What a wonderful gift. What will we give him in return? The King James uses it a different way. The King James and ASV use the word visit. Then the king will say to those on his right, "Come, you who are blessed by my Father, take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me, and I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to me." And look after is a good thing. What do you think that would mean, look after somebody? Well, I think it's probably more than just sitting and talking to them. It's going in, asking them how they're doing. Is there something I can do while I'm here? The joke was always when I first came on board here at church with the older people, they might ask you to change a light bulb. And I've done that. I've done smoke detectors, batteries, things like that. But when you go visit somebody, ask them, is there something I can do while I'm here? That's the idea of visiting. Yea, and thou, child, shalt be called the prophet of the Most High, for thou shalt go before the face of the Lord to make ready his way. Talking about John the Baptist. To give knowledge of salvation unto his people in the remission of their sins because of the tender mercy of our God, whereby the day spring from on high shall visit us. And what a beautiful, beautiful thought of the day spring from on high who will visit us. God visits us. And then we want to consider what our true business is. We're told if a man doesn't work, that he shouldn't eat. For when we were with you, Paul says, we would give you this command: if anyone is not willing to work, let him not eat. Let the thief no longer steal, but rather let him labor, doing honest work with his own hands, so that he may have something to share with anyone in need. And also, for we hear that some among you walk in idleness, not busy at work, but busybodies. Now, such persons we command and encourage in the Lord Jesus Christ to do their work quietly and to earn their living. Now, this makes sense on many levels. While we're here, while we're waiting for the coming of the Lord, while we live our lives, we have to be concerned about making a living. But you see the point I'm making. Our business is humanity. Our business is mankind. Getting too involved in business, getting too involved in the company, in flying around and making sales and putting all our eggs in one basket. That is this world. That can lead to a lot of problems, family problems, all kinds of things. But as Christians, we see the most important thing in our lives. You remember Dickens' Christmas Carol. In the Bible we read about lessons about God's gift of hospitality to the human race. It's hard to remember what's most important. When we need to care for our family, provide shelter, food, physical needs. But we have an example here in the secular realm. Business, cried the ghost, wringing his hands again. Mankind was my business. The common welfare was my business. Charity, mercy, forbearance, and benevolence were all my business. The dealings of my trade were but a drop of water in the comprehensive ocean of my business. He was sent to warn his partner in business, Scrooge, and it was a happy ending. And so we need to remind ourselves what our real business is so that we won't, like Marley, moan and clank our chains as we wander around the earth. When I look at your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars which you've set in place, what is man that you're mindful of him, and the Son of Man that you care for him? Yet you have made him a little lower than the heavenly beings and crowned him with glory and honor. You have given him dominion over the works of your hands. You have put all things under his feet. When I read that, and I look at the way we treat each other sometimes, I wonder what God thinks, because we are his crowning creation. And we as Christians know that. We just need to be reminded sometimes. What is man that you are mindful of him? In this context, the sky full of beautiful things, celestial objects. People are interested in that. People are interested in animals, pets, ice caps, whales, snail darters, a number of things. And you would get the idea that those things are more important than humanity. Name a subject. Someone would rather preserve or support these things than the human race. And I'll be honest with you, sometimes I wonder if the human race is even worth. That's cynical, isn't it? Have you ever heard somebody say that? Maybe I'm preaching to myself. Fortunately, we have a God who would do anything to make sure mankind is saved. How do I know that? Because he gave the most valuable thing to him. He gave him to save us. So we move on to the introspection. The root word comes from the Latin spectus, to look at or to see. And it's not inspection. You see the difference. Inspection is what I'm prone to do, what it's easy for me to do. I can inspect you. I can inspect your life. See, it's a difficult thing to be introspective. Introspection is not easy. As a matter of fact, it can be tricky. It requires a great deal of humility, a good memory of our experiences, and a standard that we need to meet. And sometimes we can do it in the mirror, but I don't usually do that. I usually inspect my appearance in the mirror, but it's when I have quiet time and maybe with my eyes closed or nobody else is around, those quiet times when I can examine myself. And so Paul says, examine yourselves to see whether you are in the faith. Test yourselves. Or do you not realize this about yourselves? That Jesus Christ is in you, unless you indeed fail to meet the test. And this is in his second letter to the church in Corinth. And I feel sorry for Paul because people were always inspecting him. Oh, you can't speak well. You're not really an apostle. You don't have the authority to tell us these things. And so Paul was going through all kinds of troubles. The church, some in the church were particularly vengeful because he had accused them rightly of the immorality that they were exalting and just glorying in. We're so open-minded. We've accepted this immorality among us. Well, Paul was not well thought of by a lot of them. But Paul, one thing about Paul that we could always remember is he was good at introspection. He examined his own life to the point of looking at things that he didn't want to hold on to. He was the top of the game in Judaism. But he looked inside of himself and said, these things are not important. And so he gave them up. But he urges them, examine yourselves to see whether you're in the faith. Test yourselves. We can apply this to our own identity as a Christian, and nobody else can do it. Nobody else can examine me honestly as I can. You may think that you know what's in my heart, but I don't know whether you do or not. I saw, Margie and I were watching the video today, and they were criticizing a Christian author. They showed his arm here, and he had a word on his arm. And there were people who were criticizing him for a tattoo. And it said telestai, tetelestai, which is Greek. And some people are saying it means it is finished. Others say that that's not what it means. Anyway, the point that I want to bring out is people were they were judging him, judging his intentions. Why would a Christian writer, why would a Christian have a tattoo like that? Well, I don't know. The thing that I work with a lot of times is just because I can doesn't mean I should. Just because I can doesn't mean I should. And that helps me, I don't know. But we are good at judging other people and coming up with intentions for other people. Some of the questions I should ask myself, who am I when I'm at church? Do I want to be at church? Do I want to go to worship? Well, what's the honest answer to that? Who am I when I'm at home? Are these two people different or are they the same? I want to be honest with myself. Shakespeare. It's always good to quote Shakespeare, and it makes you look like you're really academic, erudite, knowledgeable. This above all, to thine own self be true, and it must follow as the night the day. Thou canst not then be false to any man. I can judge what people do, but I cannot judge what is in their heart. I can look at them doing these things, and I can say, oh, they did that because. And I almost think that I can do that sometimes. But I can't. I have to remind myself. Mind your own business. Mind your P's and Q's. Look in your own heart and decide what's there. Famous actors, politicians. We don't know why they do what they do. This Christian writer, we didn't know why he got that tattoo. Why do I make my choices in serving God? Am I doing it because it's good for my career? Do I act on a desire to impress someone? Do I have a God complex? I just can't help solving other people's problems. You've known people like that. Am I proving that I'm more virtuous than other people? And we've got the term virtue signaling going on in our society today. Many of these things are puzzling. Even if I do it with myself, I ask these questions, it's hard for me to be honest with myself. It's hard for me to know myself. And I've heard preachers say, if I know my own heart, and they'll make a statement, a definitive statement. If I know my own heart. And what that indicates to me is that sometimes we don't know our own hearts. John says, if our heart condemns us, God is greater than our hearts. God knows everything. Went to the internet, and the Rotary International Service has Google, all these entries, Google, wrapped up. You can count down at least 40. I quit counting after 40. Thing I looked up was avenues of service. So that takes you to their website. I'm not going to say anything bad about any kind of human organization that does good. As a matter of fact, I think Rotary Club is good. I'm thinking about others that do good. And some of you may be involved with Rotary Club. But you can see the categories. I looked at that and I thought, well, these 5 categories, basically what we do in the church. Club service, well, we help each other. Second avenue of service, maybe, I have yet to go to a church that help people get jobs. That would be wonderful, wouldn't it? Of course, we try to do that. We network and things. Community service, that's what we did Saturday. Fourth Avenue service, international. We have international missions. Fifth Avenue service, youth services, okay? We've got a group of kids meeting, and we minister to them. These and others. And I'm not bad-mouthing any of these good human organizations. They get grants, they get donations. The only thing that I would have problem with is an organization having a low percentage of the way they use their money. And I can attest to you this. I went to the Haiti thing yesterday at the zoo. 88% of their of the things that come in, the money that comes in, is used in that ministry. And it was pointed out, compared to other organizations, to other efforts, that's a very high percentage. And David, am I right about that? Yeah, he could tell you. So the problem that I have with Christians becoming involved in many of these good works is that they put more effort and more time into serving in these ways than they do in the church. And I saw this when we taught at Christian schools. We had Christians who I'm going to judge some people, but I'm judging what they did. I'm not judging their intention. We had Christians that I saw at the Christian school all the time. But I looked at their involvement in the local church, and it was almost not there. And so I want to remind us that it's the church, the glory of God. The church is a living organism. It's God's body. We need to give God our service in the church. The end of all things is at hand. Therefore, be self-controlled, sober-minded for the sake of your prayers. Above all, keep loving one another earnestly, since love covers a multitude of sins. Show hospitality to one another without grumbling. As each has received a gift, use it to serve one another as good stewards of God's varied grace. Whoever speaks is one who speaks oracles of God. Whoever serves is one who serves by the strength that God supplies, in order that in everything God may be glorified through Jesus Christ. To Him belong glory and dominion forever and ever. And these benevolent organizations do a great job. Again, I want to repeat, I don't have any problem with those. But when we give our service, we need to give our service in the name of Christ and in the confines of the church. The word up there means manifold, and that's an old word. We are a multicolored fellowship when it comes to the service we render. The King James has stewards of the manifold grace of God. In the Greek Old Testament, the word is used to describe Joseph's robe, although some people say that the translation, the many-colored robe of Joseph, is not accurate. It's applied to the horses. One of the horses that Zechariah sees is many-colored, multifaceted, multicolored, dappled. And think about it. Think of all the varied gifts that we have in this room, this one room today. We have people who can do all kinds of things. We have people who can write, people who can speak better than I can. People who can go and clean houses, people who can go and clean and straight and mow yards and work in the yard. People who can serve health needs of folks. People who are good at sending cards, all of these things. We're a multicolored and multifaceted group of people. The diversities of the gifts sometimes are referred to, could be spiritual gifts, but in our day and time, these gifts are the gifts of the Spirit within us, our ability to give. So that's what that is called. We are told, God told Pharaoh, but for this purpose I've raised you up to show you my power, so that my name may be proclaimed in all the earth. Did Pharaoh serve God? Did he serve God? He served God. Did he serve God willingly? No. I would remind each of us that God will show His power in us, through us, whether we want Him to or not. He used Pharaoh to show you my power so that my name will be proclaimed in all the earth. This is the will of God. He wants His name to be proclaimed in all the earth. And so Paul anticipates the reaction of those when he says that sometimes God uses these vessels of wrath. And he says, you will say to me then, why does he still find fault? For who can resist his will? But who are you, O man, to answer back to God? Will what is molded say to its molder, why have you made me like this? Has the potter no right over the clay to make out the same lump, one vessel for honorable use and another for dishonorable use? And so he's talking about us as vessels used by God, and some of us will be dishonorable vessels, but God will have His way. God's will be done no matter what, whether I cooperate with Him or not. I'm wrapping up here. I hope I don't miss any list of the service opportunities And you can see them there. I might mention Meadows Worship. There's a dear lady sitting right in this auditorium someplace. And she calls and she gets folks to, she sets up people who lead in the Meadows Worship. If she calls you, please consider doing that. It's a tough job getting people to volunteer. Connect groups. Remember that in your connect group, in your small group, you might want to talk about some of the things that I've mentioned and others. I'm sure you can come up with a lot more. Teen ministry this morning, it's great that we're talking about that in terms of our new youth minister. Youth Connect, Lads Leaders, that's still going on. People still involved. Charles World Bible School, Community Evangelism, Bellevue Community Picnic. Many of you served yesterday. I appreciate that. We have special events, listed up there. And then I've already mentioned Hope for Haiti's Children, World Christian Broadcasting, Friends Speak. Ron still does that if you had somebody that wants to learn English. Mount Dora Children's Home, Health Ministry, Grief Support, all of those things. And I know that I'm missing some of these opportunities, but you can see what they are. And God bless you if I missed you. And I'm sorry I did that. So, in summary, contributing to these, putting our money in there, is a wonderful blessing to those who are carrying out the plans, the activities. It's a wonderful blessing for them. Will you bless yourself by giving your time, by being the hands and the feet of Jesus, by visiting, by establishing the fact that people are valuable, by looking inside your own heart and saying, am I able to do this? Am I able to do something more than I'm doing? And then be active in serving the Lord in the ways that we have here. So many opportunities. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Olivia.